Can.
All right, what a final day we have upon us. 8 of the 10 games are going to have some ramification on the league table come Sunday. And that's the beauty of the Premier League in England. The journey doesn't end until the final whistle on the final day. Welcome to Game On, your one-stop shop for everything Premier League. My name is Joseph Faulkner, and you know what we've done since we've started Game On. We bring you a lot of drama, a lot of excitement. We talk about a lot of craziness that has happened in the Premier League. Last weekend was not a very good one for all Arsenal fans, wherever they might be on the face of the earth. They were bullied, they were harried, they were hassled, they were out-hustled, out-muzzled, in every way you can think of. And Newcastle United, in front of their home fans, their final home game of the season, they just had to nick that result, and that was what happened. It put paid to hopes of Arsenal finishing in the top 4. Now, I don't know if my friends still think Arsenal will finish in the top 4, but you will hear from them yourself. I'm introducing my friends. Festus Chuku. Festus, how are you today?
Well, Kali, it has been an interesting season. What a season, man. What a season. You can imagine on the final day of the season, we still have major spots to be determined just with the last games. You know, we have the top spot to be determined. We have the 4th spot to be determined. We have European places to be determined between West Ham, Man U, and we have the relegation battle. That's the final guy, the final team that will be joining Norwich and Watford to be decided on the last day. So it's going to be an interesting session, and you're welcome, fans, and I expect for you to enjoy what we have to offer today. Eddie, you're welcome.
All right. That's Festus Chuku. We like to call him Faze, you know, on Gilmon. And of course, you know, we're just a group of friends who just love talking football, and we are here. And I also have Eddie Oko on this one. Eddie, what's up, man?
I'm good. Welcome everyone to the show.
How disappointed are you?
I shed a tear. No, it was a devastating sequence of events. But you know, welcome to the show. This is exactly what we're going to talk about. We're going to share our heartbreak and our excitement with you in the next couple of minutes. So let's go.
All right, let's go. Well, since we're starting with that, top 4 is Arsenal totally out. First, I'm going to ask. I know you have very, very strong opinion about this. Top 4 is Arsenal totally out of it now with the way things are?
Yes, we are.
So you don't think Norwich can pull up a surprise?
Even in my dream, I don't think they will do that. you know, in dreams, anything. In fact, in dreams, you see a skinny guy raising up, tons of weights and stuff, things that are impossible. But even in my dream, I don't see a Norwich taking a point from. Interestingly, Tottenham just
even if they take a point.
That's interesting. They just need a point, which is not even possible. No, I don't see Norwich beating or even getting a draw against Tottenham. So it's better to stay, you know, I don't want to raise my hope. Clearly, to answer your question straight, I think we are done with Champions League qualification. Europa, definitely, but I think we're done with that.
Eddie, what do you think? Is Arsenal totally out? Do you still have any kind of hope at all, anywhere in your heart, that Arsenal can still, you know, miraculously get into the Champions League?
I mean, listen, we've got Pookie, you know, in the Norwich. So
you sound like you're trying to convince yourself.
That would be the ninth wonder of the world if it happens.
I mean, listen, they always say that in football anything can happen, right?
Oh my God!
This is one of those things. This is one of those things that this is very unlikely to happen. If you put money, you know how they always talk about the odds that is 10-1, right? Yeah. So if you put £10, you actually lose. So I mean, it's very difficult to see Spurs, you know, doing the Spurs thing. Now, the only thing that we can hope for is maybe there's a lasagna thing that happens, you know, at Norwich, because they are playing away to Norwich. But I think Norwich would want to go out with a bang. You know, last game of the Premier League, you know, they're going to put a lot of effort in. but I don't see how they can make it. I think either the referees will help Spurs. Um, no, but seriously, with all serious, Arsenal had it in the palm of their hands, and inexperience cost them.
Yeah.
You talked about something. You talked about something. You talked about the lasagna gate, and there were rumors earlier today before the pre-match press conference by the managers that there is an outbreak of food poisoning in the Tottenham Hotspur camp. But the manager said at the press conference some 2 hours, 3 hours ago that there is nothing like that. That there is nothing like that. Though Harry Kane missed training today because he was feeling unwell, but there's nothing like an outbreak of food poisoning. So can lasagna get a repeat of that in some ways help us now?
You know what? I think that it will be very, very difficult because if I remember very well, there was a lot of investigations, into the Marriott Hotel because that's where the players
Yeah,
stayed. In West against when that game was against West Ham,
West Ham.
back
Yeah,
back then, and they investigated, tested the food to make sure that there was no case of food poisoning, and it turned out that it was norovirus. That was the reason for that incident. I think lightning striking twice is very unlikely. I
very
think I
unlikely.
think if players were ill, I mean it only COVID related that you would have thought perhaps could affect the Tottenham players from turning up, but I
Um,
First,
think
let's
Kali, let me even
yeah.
chip in. For me, even if
There's a
six,
lasagna gate.
five of Tottenham players were infected by a lasagna case, I still think Tottenham will beat Norwich.
I think so too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
they've
think
got
so too.
they've got strength in depth, which I think is
Yeah.
something that
Excuse me.
Let's.
Arsenal needs to address.
Oh, so exactly.
Because clearly what this season has been a good learning curve, for Arteta.
Always
I'm not
learning.
I'm not his biggest fan, although I would hope that what he's shown this season and what the season has taught him is that when you need squad players in the team, you should always prepare that at some point you might have a good significant portion of your team being squad players. We've
But
had
but but
pretty
could it?
much.
Yeah, could it be that I hear what you say, lessons learned and all of that, and I'm hoping that the right people have actually learned these lessons, not that it's just us fans learning the lessons. But listening to Arteta, in the last 2 days he's talked about the recruitment in the summer. He said qualifying for the Champions League or not, there's already a plan in place to recruit some players. We're already hearing about Marquinhos. We're hearing about Hickey, from Bologna. We're hearing about several players that he wants to bring in. And one of the biggest problems Arsenal had is the fact that there were no replacement for key players. Partey got out, and there was a problem in midfield. He started trying out all sorts. Tenny got injured. The team, was thrown into all kinds of confusion. Tomiyasu, got injured. Another level of confusion. And he's talked about buying good quality cover for these guys so that even when the main guys are out, the reserve can do it. But then, all that said, you talked about something in your intro, and I think I want Festus to react to that. Inexperience was one of our biggest problems. But inexperience in what areas? Do we have the quality and not just the right manager in the areas where we needed help? Or it's a matter of not bringing people in January, or it's just inexperience generally on the part of both the players, the manager. What exactly do we mean when we say, because it's beautiful to throw around big words, but let's break it down. Let's narrow it down to specifics. How was Arsenal inexperienced in the games against Spurs and in the game against Newcastle United?
Okay, Kali, first of all, I'm going to answer your questions in three phases, briefly. When you remember in one of our episodes, past episode, I clearly stated that Arteta is making a whole lot of mistake with the clearance he did in January. Most times clubs don't do that. A lot of times clubs offload a whole lot of players at the end of the season. That is when they do clear out and bring in new, mid-season is always like buy replacement, quickly buy something to shop. Most people don't do something that strategic or structural, massive structural change mid-season. That was a big mistake. And whatever excuse they will come up with, free wage and blah, 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 for me, it doesn't really make any,
let's talk about those players you're talking about. Okay. The players you offloaded in January. Let's talk about them.
Now, what that team did was it created a whole lot of problem for Arsenal, where we had our players, we had a very lean squad. Lean squad in the first, things you pointed out. We had a case of Partey out, and that was it. The midfield collapse. We had cases where a whole lot of players were let Bellerin,
Festus. I don't want us to go. Let's bring it up. I'm deliberately trying to make us narrow them down to specifics. Okay. Who were the players you shouldn't have let go of in January, and what impact did they have in the team before January?
Now, you talked about squad players. Remember, squad players may not be playing regularly, but you always have that confidence that they are there. They are the background in case needed. And they may not be 100% quality like your main players, but at least they will offer something. And at times,
so like who?
Let's
talk about the midfield.
You have the
Let's talk about the midfield.
I may not specifically call but I'll call a whole lot of the players. Bellerin was not a bad player, especially when we started having problems with Tomiyasu and the rest. Nice was a quality player that could play any wing to an extent. Nice was let go. Chambers was let go. And we remember all the problems we had in the defense. These guys could have slotted in without it's really showing that much. We couldn't have been using a right back to play left back and the rest. When a Nice could have played right back, a Bellerin could have easily slotted in at that point in time. If you have three regular defenders with a Bellerin, your defense won't be that bad or too open. So I'm just giving an example of. I may not specifically say this, but
what you're saying is the likes of Maitland-Niles.
Niles, Bellerin,
Niles is a better fit than Lokonga and Elneny and Suarez. Is that what you're saying?
No, remember, this is constant experience. Niles has is more experienced than these guys when it comes to the crunch time. When it came to the crunch time when we needed experience and we needed guys with the heart, this is where that experience kicked in, and this is where we had that problem. First of all, there was burnout because of the lean squad. Burnout, definitely injury came. They burnout. Remember, we said Saka was tired at a point in time. He was being
but there was Pepe. Pepe who kept playing and kept disappearing.
Do you know what? I don't.
Our problem is the squad. That squad is too lean.
No, so is it just inexperience? Okay.
So hold on, right? I agree that the squad is lean, but I don't agree about the players that we had there would have made a difference. I don't see Chambers better than Holding, right? And Holding is a much better defender. What I think the inexperience was in our team is situational inexperience. Knowing what to do in certain moments of the game.
Yep.
And you can almost say that for the manager as well. Because when we went to that game against Spurs, right, we didn't need to win, right? We just needed not to lose in that game, right? We knew that a win would get us into the top 4 position, but also a draw would have kept us still ahead of Spurs.
So how would you have deployed the team?
So for me, I would play the way that we typically play when we play away from home to the big teams, when we go to Man City. And even Arteta has been doing that. When he goes to, remember when we went to Man City, forget that the outcome, right? They were a better, superior team than us, and they will outplay us. But I don't think that if we had gone to that game, with the hope that we cannot lose this game, I don't think Spurs would have been able to break us down.
Do you think Spurs have a better team than Arsenal?
No, it's not a better team quality, right? I'm talking about situation, moments.
How many?
I think Tottenham has a better team than Arsenal.
I think so. No matter man to man, I think Spurs have a better team than this Arsenal side.
But my point is,
I get when you say situational inexperience. I totally agree, and that's where I have a problem with Festus, and he's talking about players like Bellerin, Maitland-Niles, and the rest of them.
Bellerin before he
Bellerin-
left, it was
You
Bellerin
already
guys,
on
before
his
he
way
left,
you
down.
guys clearly
Bellerin
you're
before he-
missing. No, Kali, hold on. You're missing the point where I'm coming from. I am not saying, like I said, squad players will always be squad players. Even in Man City, despite the quality, you still have a whole lot of squad players. And
But we
Yeah,
do, but Arsenal have
let's-
squad players.
But look
But
at the
when
squad
we
what I
had
think
players.
we don't have- what I think
when
we
we
don't
had
have
player
is-
crisis, did you see our bench when we had player crisis?
Yeah,
did
but
you
those-
see people
those
coming in?
players-
But the squad players came into the side.
Yes.
When we had Partey out, El Neni came into the side.
squad players-
That's a
And then he
squad
came
player.
after 3 games. After
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Those
He's a
games
squad
we
player.
lost. Those games we lost cost us.
Is Lokonga not a squad
Cost
player?
us the Champions League squad.
No,
Those
but
3
Lokonga,
games.
but
I
Lokonga
don't
is
think
a
it's
squad
fair.
player. I don't think
I don't
Niles
think
would
it's-
have done any better. Don't forget that.
I don't think so.
These
Those
were the
guys-
players that played last season, towards the tail end of last season, and we still struggled. Right?
We
This
finished
team
We finished
have
8th.
seen us finish 5th in
For
the Premier
me,
League.
for me, one of them could help when
None
we
of
had
them.
crisis.
No,
None of them.
no,
Festus,
they
none of
couldn't.
them.
That is what I
They
feel.
couldn't-
You
anyway.
they
know
couldn't
one
help.
mistake. Let me just say this. You know, one of the mistakes we've made over time is because these guys play at Arsenal, we think they are more than they are.
No, that's
And
not
they
what I
actually
mean.
let's see, and they're not.
When
actually
you're
that
doing
good.
structural clearouts, you don't do it mid-season. You leave them and do it end of the season.
No,
That
no,
is
no,
my
no,
point.
no, no,
What
no,
was the
no,
point
no,
of
no,
what was the point of doing that?
It
No,
doesn't
but
matter
what
when
was the
you do
point
it.
of doing that mid in January?
So
It doesn't change the fact that we did not have the
It would
quality
have
to see us
changed.
through.
And Aubameyang could have still given us a minimum 6 goals. Minimum.
No, not at all.
Yes, he
Aubameyang's
could.
last 10 games.
Yes,
Aubameyang's
he
last
could.
10 games.
No,
Last 10 games, how many goals did he score?
Aubameyang
Aubameyang was
scored-
not in a good place because of the problem he was having with Arteta. But if he had managed it
What
well,
problem? Sir,
Aubameyang could have still given us 6 goals minimum.
No,
Lacazette, okay,
what
how many
was
goals did
Aubameyang's
Lacazette score
problem?
when Aubameyang
Festus,
was out totally?
Let us not throw rumors around. Let
Yeah.
us
No,
not.
it's
you
not
know,
even about rumors. I'm saying
So what was
a normal
Aubameyang's
team
problem?
does not do structural
Festus,
clear
what
out
was
mid-season.
Aubameyang's
It
problem?
has never happened
What was
in any big
Aubameyang-
team.
So
Festus,
for
what
me,
was Aubameyang's problem with Arteta?
I don't know the problem, but
Let's talk about what we know. Let's talk about what we know.
Here's
Festus,
what-
Aubameyang was not scoring for us
here's what
anymore.
we know. Aubameyang was not scoring any goals. He scored
wasn't scoring. He was
four
indisciplined.
goals. He scored 4 goals. this
Nobody
Premier
scores
League
goals
season.
when there is a psychological problem. You must
What
clear the head.
psychological
But what
problem?
would that-
You're the
what
leader of the team.
We don't know what's happening. Then it boils down to the coach
What was
to put
happening
it right.
was he was coming late to training. Festus, what was happening was he was coming late to training.
Yes.
He was
You
traveling
have that
without
good
the club's
authority.
permission. He was traveling without the club's permission. He was not pulling his weight on the field anymore. And you are the leader of the team.
And
That's
you
what we
find
know.
him,
That's
you
not the
find
cult.
him, you
No, no,
find
no, no,
him,
no.
he paid
That's
his
not-
dues on
that's
that.
not
Then
the
you
culture.
don't.
That's not the culture that you want to create in a team.
I agree.
So for me, right, if anybody brings Aubameyang as part of the debate, no, that's
Nah,
completely.
Nah.
Because let me
If you don't
let me
respect,
tell
if
you
you don't
something.
respect the badge,
I
you don't
don't
respect
have
the
a
badge,
problem with.
you don't respect the
I don't
club,
have
you
a problem
deserve
with
to be in
offloading
sport.
him at the end of the season, but I'm
He
saying that
was not contributing
because of what
He
we
was not
and he
needed,
was
contributing.
creating
our games-
a bad environment.
A bad
Okay.
environment. The environment the club was trying to get rid of, you're bringing it again. An environment where players had too much power to choose which games they played, had there was so much indiscipline when Arteta took over. Emery was trying to fight that. Instead, they fought Emery out. And that needed to stop because in Arteta's presentation when he was taking the job, one of the things he told them was no player can be bigger than the club anymore. No player can be picking games they want to play anymore. No player can, be lackadaisical anymore.
Okay,
And that was why when hold on.
Kyle, I
And
hear
that's
you.
when he started.
No, I hear
And
you.
that's why
Kyle.
when he started, let me finish my point. When he
Okay.
started, he called Xhaka, had a meeting with Xhaka. He called Aubameyang, had a meeting with Aubameyang. He called Ozil, had a meeting with Ozil. And then he called these 3 guys because they're supposed to be the leaders. Sorry, and Bellerin. He called the 4 of them individually, then called them together and told them where they were going. And even though Ozil was not pulling his weight, Arteta's first 10 games, he kept playing Ozil, hoping that Ozil will come into form. And he did the same thing for Aubameyang when Aubameyang wasn't scoring goals. He kept playing him. I made a lot of excuses for Arteta because a lot of people were like, drop him, drop him, drop him. But I kept saying, that's the captain of the team. He's going to continue to push it. And the quality in Aubameyang is not in doubt. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the attitude. And at that moment, he looked like a man who didn't want to play for Arsenal anymore. I said something on my radio show. I said, as long as Aubameyang gets to Barcelona, he's going to score tons of goals for them because his quality is not in doubt. But at that time, he didn't want to be at Arsenal anymore. And that was why I agreed with him leaving. Let's not create an Ozil situation where a player sits on the bench, laughing at the team when they are losing, chewing peanuts when the team is losing, and then collecting huge wages. Let's not create that kind of environment at all.
I hear you. I hear you. See, I get Eddie, I get what you guys are saying, really. I understand what you're saying. But the summary of what I'm saying here the summary of what I'm saying here is those clear outs, which was so much, I feel it was excessive. I feel even if you're doing clear out, the squad was so lean. We had a very lean squad.
The club wasn't lean. We just didn't have the quality. We did not have the quality.
Let me help you with that point, right?
Okay.
If you said to me that we didn't bring people in January, right, to support the team, I would totally agree. I think that's
my emphasis is lean squad. The squad is too lean.
The squad was not lean. We just didn't have the quality.
It was. We only make 3 changes. We only have 3 players we change in every match.
So
either if Pepe comes in or no, Kali, we only have 3 people. We are always recycling in terms of our team.
Sorry, was there a match that we did not fill up our bench?
So Festus,
Kali, did you take some of our bench?
That point,
we are bringing guys from the feeders.
So that's the problem.
They make up our bench. There are a lot of times feeders.
Festus, the quality is the problem, not the numbers.
Yeah, it wasn't about
even the guys who went out were not good enough to play for the Arsenal.
Not the numbers.
That's why Maitland-Niles played a few games for Roma, and Roma wanted to throw him back to Arsenal. He's been on the bench, rotting on the bench. Bellerin is the only player who's gone out on loan, and Pablo Mari are the only 2 players who have gone out on loan, and they're playing regularly. Minus Saliba, who's gone since January. All the other guys are nowhere to be found right now.
And also, if you look at the Premier League, there's not a lot of teams that make changes like that. West Ham pretty much had a very consistent team. Throughout, Man City, you could almost see that a lot of the team, especially towards the middle and the back, very consistent. Liverpool, there are very few players that they change, in their squad. So a lot of teams in the Premier League don't go ahead and make wholesale changes, right? So for me, it wasn't numbers, right? That was the difference because we had the numbers. We had the numbers.
We didn't have the quality.
We just didn't have the quality. And that's where the inexperience really, really showed. Some game management, for me was also part of it. There were games that, you should go into those games understanding, where you are in the season and understanding, what is at stake. And in some of those games, we should have been thinking, and that's how, you see how Spurs celebrated when they played Liverpool and they got that draw. Because they knew that, we could not lose this game. So we at least come out with a draw because that will keep them in the fight. If you reverse that to Arsenal and say, well, you go into the Spurs game, know that you cannot lose this game. Let's forget about how you played because everybody will forget that when you get into top 4. But you don't lose the game. So we went in and we lost the game. And that affected us.
So guys, let's talk about, you talked about Liverpool and Spurs. And I ask one simple question. Okay, when Spurs are playing and it gets tough, they have boys who can get physical. Newcastle United realized they couldn't play any kind of beautiful, fancy Eddie Howe style of football against Arsenal. And what did they do? They got very physical. 2 big men in the middle, knocked off even El Neni, Xhaka. They won all the duels in the game. What is Arsenal's plan B when things get tough? Do we have the men to get physical in the face of a fight in that team?
Kali, okay, Eddie.
No, go ahead, Christos.
Yeah,
okay,
go ahead,
Kali, this is really my problem, and I hope during the recruitment process, this will be corrected. We've suffered the same thing even from the Wenger days. Arteta, to an extent, Partey gave us a bit of solidity in the midfield, especially when he combined with Xhaka. But in other areas of the field, we are so
Light.
we're so light. We get bullied. And this is becoming a playbook for most teams when we are meeting us now. Check most of the losses we encountered this season. Check
They
all
were
the
physical
losses.
games.
That is what most of
Physical
those guys did. They went very physical with us. And look at the Saka. You have an Odegaard, Saka, Smith Rowe. These are all small boys. One, they are young, and one, they are very featherweight. We need to mix our team. We need to bring in the men and the boys with the skill, so that you blend in quality and physicality. That is basically the Premiership for you.
So let me bring an alternative view to that whole physicality, because it gets banded around against Arsenal. But I don't think it's unconnected with Arsenal's indiscipline, the number of yellow cards that we have, the number of red cards that we have. So I feel like there is an art when it comes to that physicality, and that's something that we get punished for. So if you look at the games that we've tried to be physical in, we usually get a player sent off. Look at the Spurs game, right? You could argue that Holding was trying to be physical, right, against Son Mignon, and he got sent off. If you look at the Liverpool game, Gabriel trying to be physical got sent off. So there's something about the way that we do our physicality that doesn't mask it like the other teams. The other teams seem to be more adept at being physical, kicking people up and down, and don't get any punishment for that.
Yeah.
So
it's an art.
It is an art. It is an art, and something that, I don't know how we get that, but we've always had this reputation of every time they see an Arsenal player be physical, it doesn't go unpunished. So that's something that maybe plays into their mind as well when they go into those games, because they know that if they try and be rough and try and be physical, more often than not, we'll get penalties, we'll get yellow cards, we'll get red cards.
Eddie, let me add.
First, can you learn physicality?
Kali, yes, you can learn physicality, and also two, when you have the stature, when you're big as a player, see, I think we should just blend our team when we are recruiting.
A mixture of strength.
We need to bring in
strength
and skill. When I mean strength and skill, a Vieira kind of person. Vieira will tackle you. He has the physicality and he has the skill, and he has the presence in the midfield, especially the midfield. That midfield area needs to be toughened up. We need to blend our team. We have a whole lot of lightweight quality around us, so we can play the beautiful football. We can, mesmerize teams when they give us. But the moment a team realizes, they set up their team, to go physical with us, those lightweight guys they can't handle it. They can't handle this physicality, and this is where
look at Saka.
The problem you see in terms of our red cards that you look at is the frustration. By the time they keep kicking, hitting, and those things they do, those guys try to either go back or try to be physical, but they don't have this. They don't have the stature.
They don't have the talent. Yes. They don't even have it. So Rob Holding, for instance, is a big guy, but he's used to playing smooth,
playing football,
silky football, and then he goes up against Harry Kane, and he wants to get aggressive.
Harry Kane learns how to be physical with defenders also. So definitely we need to. Our recruitment has to change. Our recruitment has to blend in. We need to bring in some big boys with skills.
I mean, the recruitment is changing. So if you look at the last couple of players that have come in, you can't say that those players are not physical players.
Apart from Partey, who else is very physical there?
Gabriel.
Well, Gabriel.
Gabriel is coming. Tomiyasu.
Tomiyasu is
not a spring chicken as well. So you can see that they're trying to address some of that. And let's not forget, up until the last 4 games, we didn't concede through corners. Until that also broke down the last couple of games.
Tenny got injured.
And it also showed our inexperience, because the pressure came in and we started conceding from corners. If you still look at the stats now, we have conceded the least goals from corners in the whole Premier League. And up until the last 4 or 5 games, we had probably only considered 1 goal.
But in the last couple of games,
against Brentford. But then we conceded from a corner against Spurs, conceded from a corner against Newcastle considered from a corner against Liverpool. We've started, sorry, not Liverpool, started conceding from corners a lot more frequently than we used to.
So and I think one of the things that has happened to the team again is the moment those key players were out, it affected the balance of the team. And for a lot of people who didn't believe in Partey at first, one of the things I kept singing to Partey's to all the Partey haters, I used to call them, is Partey is
I'm one of them.
Partey, I know.
It was terrible last season, man.
But Partey was coming into a team that wasn't balanced, and they needed to find the balance. Eventually, everybody started seeing what Partey brought to the team, and immediately he got injured. There was problem. There was chaos. And then Tierney got injured. And our biggest problem, I would say, if Partey had remained fit, even with Tierney's injury, we'll still have done a bit better than we're doing. Because our midfield right now, anybody can overrun us, no matter what we did. So the first 3 games we lost before Elneny came into the side, a lot of people said, we considered about 6 goals in that 7 goals in that period. When Elneny came on, we didn't keep clean sheets. We considered 6 goals in his next 3 games. So we weren't shielding our defense. We weren't, regardless of who we're playing, Lokonga, Partey, Lokonga or Elneny. What has happened is the key man, which is Partey, was out of the team, and then there's no proper covering for the team. And that's one of the things I'm glad Arteta is talking about dealing with in the summer. Somebody, maybe not as talented as Partey, but somebody who can come in there and we won't miss Partey. And somebody who is still growing as well, who can grow enough to challenge Partey for that shirt. So Partey won't see it as his birthright. And, we need to get to a point where there's strong competition for shirts in the side. I remember the days of Henry. Apart from players like Dennis Bergkamp and Henry, everybody else had to fight.
Yeah.
Everybody else had to fight. And then you remember we had a Gilberto and a Vieira. A lot of people don't talk about Gilberto so much, but that guy was a steal.
Gilberto was a rock, man.
Was rugged. And like Festus, you said, our midfield, it must change.
Yeah, we have to bring in physical, that midfield.
I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel dropping to the Europa League is a blessing in disguise. I think so.
I don't think so, man.
I know all of us want to play Champions League.
Yes, it's been a while, bro.
But you know what? Let's not fly before we start walking.
So the only thing, I totally agree with you. The perspective, for Arsenal fans is the fact that it's Tottenham that is beating us to the Champions League. I think that's what's making it more painful. Because the reality is that we are not yet ready, to get into the Champions League. But then again, you only need one attempt to go in, and then you try and address, your previous history. So yeah, it's painful. Like if it was,
and it will have been more money for the club.
Yeah, it would have been more.
And that is why I don't agree with you guys. When you say we are not ready, hey, guy, nobody's ready. When you go in there, you make the.
Are we ready?
Let me come in. When you
ready?
Qualify,
what is
you
your
have a whole lot of 3 months.
What is your expectation in the Champions League?
What is Tottenham's expectation in the Champions League? What is Tottenham's
expectation? To the final.
No. We have gotten to the final before. So what's the best?
No. We're talking about in the last 5 years.
Let me come back to what you said.
Let me come
back to something you said.
Charlie, let me land on something.
This sports team is better than our team.
Yeah, I agree. I've said that before. I said this.
So they deserve to be the Champions League more than we do.
But Charlie, a whole lot can change before Champions League starts.
You need to.
Recruit
this
well.
Sports team have the core together. They've had this core together for more than 1 year.
We still have a base to work with. All you need to do is good recruitment. That team becomes almost good. We have a base.
What? Tell me. How many times have you bought players?
Changes the Arsenal team if you're in the champion. And you know the good about Champions League. It gives you the opportunity to bring in quality players because they will play in the Champions League.
Festus, how many times have club bought players and they hit the ground running immediately? Tell me how many times you've seen.
Even if not happen always, but some have actually come and still, play well.
That's what I'm saying. How many times? How many times does that happen?
Kali, there is nobody that will tell you that
as good as Partey is.
There is nobody that will say I prefer to play an Europa competition to a Champions League competition. No.
We're not talking about that. The reality is that
we're not good enough.
We can attract players if we want to. We just need to pay the money. Before
Yeah.
Liverpool got into the Champions League, they attracted players, right? They attracted the
They were
likes of
buying. They were
Mane.
buying some
They
of the
attracted
biggest
the,
names.
the likes of, Salah into their team on their way up into the Premier League. So we need to keep that trajectory of getting good players coming into the team, and then we need to build that experience. So
But the problem
listen,
is the
Eddie, let me
management.
just
Is the
add
management
to what
ready
you're
to
saying.
splash that money?
no,
First two
they are
years.
now. They spent.
Are you sure?
Yeah, they spent.
But
We
look at what we
spent.
spent.
We spent
It's just
money.
that we're not doing all this playing to the gallery, buying a big name that will come back and not do anything for us in 6 months and all of that. That what Arsenal is doing now is in Arteta's words, buying right. One of the reasons he didn't buy in January is they don't just want to buy because they just have to buy. They want to buy a player who can come into the team with the right mentality and the right attitude and fit into the team.
Anyway,
Eddie, you were saying
with the,
something, and
with
I
the
want to
rumor
add.
we are hearing, I pray it goes right. Yeah, I think the recruitment has not been that bad, really. Kali, I give it to them, and I just pray they sustain that. And if they
I pray so
sustain
too.
it,
I
if they
pray so
sustain
too.
it, really, we'll be in a better place in the next 2-3 years. Good.